Hello.
Hello.
Hey Marius, I see you on the call. I remember last time we discussed about possibly doing run through for the zero trust paper. Are you good for that today?
Ready, enable.
Okay. I see you talking about I'm having audio issues. Sorry. 1 second.
I hear you, so it's definitely what Brandon said.
Thank you.
Are you still debugging, Brandon?
Brandon has very sophisticated equipment, and that's what causes it usually.
All right, can you hear me? And now I can hear
We
you.
can hear you now.
We can hear you.
Yes.
I don't know what's wrong with this audio driver. It keeps messing it up. I'm sorry.
Blame Zoom. We all do.
Hello. How's
All right,
everyone?
let me get here on
Hello.
paste the meeting notes in the chat. So again, I missed it. Marius, are you going to be able to do the run through today or another time?
Yes, I would love to.
Awesome. Give it a couple of minutes. Folks come in. Those that just joined, we have the meeting notes in the chat. You can go in and put in your name, and if you have any updates, that would be great. All right, cool. I think we can get about started. Very quickly, the usual spiel. This meeting's being live streamed and it's going to be available on YouTube after this. Participation in meetings is agreement to abide by CNCF as well as TAG Security Code of Conduct that can be found in repo. Need at least one person to help volunteer the scribe to just write down action items and main content points. If anyone can do that, that would be great. And I've linked the meeting notes in the chat. If you haven't already done so, please include your name and affiliation there. And if you have any updates or things that you want to share with the group, this is helpful for folks to get connected. Cool. So first thing on the agenda as usual, new member introductions. Do we have any new folks that want to introduce themselves? Looks like the usual crowd. So next one. We did a TOC meeting update. We shared the work of the group to TOC. This includes the security village work, the policy white paper, Cilium security PAL slash threat modeling, as well as the cognitive security white paper audio to the TOC. We did an update. It was just a tag update for TOC meeting. And let's do a quick round on project updates if we have any updates from folks.
Yeah, I think I have an update about the security village. So we're accepting CFPs we have a couple of presentation slots at the security village at KubeCon EU. So if folks are interested, that closes in 2 days on Friday. So if you have any talk ideas, go ahead and get those in. I think in addition to the CFP talks, we're going to have a couple of talks from the tag itself, kind of talking about some of the work we've been doing. And then also, if you're going to be at KubeCon, we would really appreciate more in-person volunteers who could be around helping out with the village in person, both with those talk tracks, as well as we're trying to put together some kind of unconference style, more discussion-based things, which of course requires a bit more moderation. So if folks are interested, there's a sign up on the issue, which I will post in chat. Yeah, and I don't know if Ravi had anything else on that.
Yeah.
Raga, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
I just said I posted the links.
Oh, awesome. When is the CFP? Okay, I see. March. Well, there's a volunteer sign up. When's the CFP deadline for this?
March 10th. I'm just pasting that as well.
Oh, like 2 days. Okay. All right. It'll be a fun weekend for a lot of people. Awesome. And I assume this has already been on the Twitter. If you have a link that folks can retweet, that will be also helpful.
Yes. So the Twitter posts are out and this information has been rolled out to our mailing list as well. So please share it with your community, your friends, family, whoever is interested. And we would love more participation and reactions on this. Thank you.
Awesome. I think this is the form the same one for volunteers and CFP? No, it's different.
No, the CFP is one, and the volunteers has 2 sections, one for in-person and one for CFP volunteers. Just let us know which thing you're interested in helping with. At this point, I think we're mostly looking for in-person volunteers, but yeah, whatever works.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is handled by the platform. Okay. Cool. I think this is the Twitter post. Just this one. And there's another one which is having issues with linking things. This one is the other one. Awesome. Thanks, Marina. Thanks, Raga. Raga, I know you're still waiting on reviews, partially from my side as well on the audio. I'll get that to you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Raga, I reviewed it too. I will send you an email. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
An update on the SoundCloud account from the audiobook side. So we were able to figure out the credentials and that part is resolved. And I was also able to get an account on the service portal for CNCF. So our blogs should be okay as well. So I shared a blog template in the audios folder. So if you could review that and share your thoughts, I can go ahead and create a ServiceNow ticket and get that out as well.
Awesome. Do you mind pasting the link of that in the meeting notes?
I will. Yes, I
Thank you.
will. Sure.
Cool. Other updates. I think from supply chain working group, I think we're still continuing on the policy work that's going on. I don't think there's too much to update on that. Still doing the scoping of the work there. A couple of us for security reviews, we had a chat with the our TOC leaders and members to talk about the new TOC project process and how we can help better increase the posture of security projects. I think there were a couple of folks on this call that were there. So if I don't know, John, if you wanted to say a few things about that.
Hey, sure. Yeah, so I mean, I think we've sort of been struggling with this for a while now, but the end goal is we're trying to figure out how do we support a large number of projects and sort of get them up to speed on the security side, either from a sandbox point of view or as they go through and mature out. And how can we come up with a scalable solution? So talk through a few ideas there. And then, from my point of view, how can we bring Palace into that, or is that still sustainable? So try to figure out like what can we do around that. The book, which is in draft form right now, how can that help a new project? And that's around a few different ideas. I think it's going to keep going on for a while, but we're going to try and touch base with the talk again in about a month.
Yeah, and we also talked about some of the changes to the TOC process. I think one of the things that's going to happen is that we used to have it where projects will come to the talk. They would say, "Okay, go present to the appropriate tag," and then they'll that was part of the process. They changed that to not have that requirement anymore. But it seems like there is kind of movement back towards that. So it's going to be every project that's coming in as a sandbox or any stage has to have kind of a tag that it belongs to, or multiple tags that it belongs to. And then like the whole part of that is like if a project comes in that does not really have a home in a tag, then that kind of begs the question whether this is in scope or whether a new tag has to be created. So yeah, I think that's going to help definitely have projects be more engaged with the tags and for incubation as well.
I think real quick for something there for folks to think about, one of the things we're talking through is like, okay, a new project comes in. Can we somehow sort of quickly threat model? Can we help them quickly threat model? Which areas do they need to even think about? So like for projects that's doing networking, okay, obviously they need to have some sort of, have security awareness around either talking or listening on a network port. Versus if someone's just doing data storage, do they need to think about something from that point of view? So any ideas around that and that's sort of, I think, partially came back to where we're thinking about tagging. And obviously if someone's part of a network tag, they're going to be thinking more about that versus other teams. So that's sort of where the head scratching is going on.
Awesome. I think that we have it covered mostly. We're gonna have the main agenda item on Zero Trust, so I think we can skip that for now. White paper V3 is still going on, I believe. If you want to be plugged into the work and you're not already plugged in, please you can send me a Slack message and I can help with that. Cool. Let me just check in to see whether we have any updates from folks. No, I don't think we do. So I think we can go on to our agenda item, which is um, Marish, who's helping to lead the Zero Trust white paper. So excited to see what's been baking.
All right, let me just take over the screen then. Okay, you can see me, you can hear me, right? All good?
Gotcha.
Okay,
Yes,
fantastic.
we can.
Thank you. So let me just start this. All right, so I'll be talking to you today about the Zero Trust using Cloud Native Platform, the white paper that we're trying to write here in this community. So I'm Mariusz Sabath. I'm in IBM Research. I'm one of the co-leads of this paper together with Kishore. And we have several people, some of them even on this call today, who participate in writing this paper. So let's jump into it. Okay, I will start with the quick overview of the goals and motivations for this paper. So we want to provide a guide around the zero trust concepts for cloud native platform in the way that is beneficial for the target audience that includes project teams, enterprises, and engineers in general. To help them understand the security challenges and how the zero trust methodology helps resolving some of these challenges. So in this guide, which is a community effort, the guide is based on current best knowledge of the space from security enthusiasts like yourselves. The paper explains what zero trust is, what problems we are solving, and what is in and out of the scope. We want to provide a collection of the best practices for the software engineers and administrators with the sample deployments and implementations. We want this to be a reference architecture to guide and advise the teams. That's especially important around continuous authorization and authentication and a strong attested identity. So before we go further, the quick review of the main principles of the zero trust: always verify, eliminate implicit trust, assume a breach, plan for compromised systems and components, assume the network is hostile and untrusted, a principle of the least privilege, and of course, authenticate and authorize each operation. So here are a few sample use cases to demonstrate the zero trust can be achieved. So end users accessing internet-facing applications ensure the device identity, device posture, and the resources. The resources they are accessing use dynamic policy to grant access, hybrid application deployment, and mutual trust between two different components of the application or between the application and database, untrusted user trying to access unauthorized service, administrative access abuse, or spoof tokens. So we want our paper to show sample solutions around these use cases to demonstrate how zero trust influences the architecture and the deployment. So let's take a quick look at the paper itself. So first we cover the motivation behind the paper, and then we go into the zero trust principles and concepts. We show challenges via the traditional perimeter-based security for cloud-native platforms. We go into cloud-native components and layers. Then we go over the best practices to achieve zero trust and provide a reference architecture. The main focus is on identity and attestation, root of trust, detection and feedback loops. We continue with the zero trust in container as a service, and also the serverless platforms. Then we go over continuous monitoring and compliance. We cover zero trust maturity levels and try to define the future vision. That's pretty much the whole paper. So now let's see what is the status of the individual pieces. So this paper still needs a lot of work. And of course, we welcome all the contributions from the community. In fact, I would strongly suggest and recommend joining our small team and help us with the completion. Okay, so color. The green represents that this part is pretty much completed. Yellow means it's not done, but we have an owner who's working right now on this, or at least claim they will be working on it. And then the red pieces are the ones that we really need help. So as you can see here, the motivation is pretty much done. We have some challenges component written, but still needs to be done. Some pieces need to be completed. And then as you can see, the policy management and enforcement, the runtime, they still need work and need owners. We need some help with the best practices. So I covered the identity and attestation. Aradna is on the root of trust, but we still need more work on the detection and the feedback. Let's see what else. Yeah. So the zero trust in the container as a service and the serverless platform. We have owners for the continuous monitoring and compliance, zero trust maturity levels, and we need some help with the future vision. So the project timeline, it's pretty aggressive, I think, judging by the way we are going with this project. So we were hoping that around the tax season, we would be done with the draft. We'll see how it goes. And then just final reviews. So some helpful few links. Here you have the link to the actual issue. There is a document, link to the document. We have a weekly meetings on Fridays, Eastern, 11 o'clock Eastern time. It's a Zoom call. So if you want and can, please join us. I also linked here the Zero Trust panel presentation that we did. A few of us did this on the conference, the security conference in February. So if anyone is interested, there's a recording. We have our own dedicated Slack channel linked here as well. I guess comments at this point, comments, questions? I'll stop sharing.
I do think it's an interesting project, and we need more people to participate, and so we can get wider perspective of people right into the research that we are publishing. Especially, I mean, supply chain security in the CI/CD pipeline, right? How do we get to a zero trust there? And also detection, right? Detection areas. How do you generate feedback from detection to improve your platform or the services running there? I think that's another very important aspect that we need more insight into from other folks on this group.
I'm kind of curious. I think there was one point where it was like zero trust maturity levels. Just kind of wanted to kind of hear more about like what the, in terms of maturity levels, is that kind of like focusing on different areas, or like building up zero trust in, you know, overall, or in a single component, or, you know, what does the maturity levels there look like, or what do you think it's looking like over there?
So good point. I don't think we have considered that yet, but definitely we can build that concept into the paper where we say, in order to achieve maturity level 1, these are the controls. In order to achieve maturity level X, right, these additional controls need to be in place and you have to be fully mature, right? That's a good feedback, Marius. Maybe we can take that. There are some maturity levels published in the industry. I don't know which standard to follow there, unfortunately, but we'll do some research around maturity levels for zero trust and incorporate that. Good
So
point.
Aradhana, for this one, we have a Srini who's actually leading this effort of the maturity levels. And
Okay.
I can bring him to one of the meetings again and see if he can give us some deep dive on the way he's thinking about it. But yeah, we have some ownership on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Then I misspoke. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It seems like, yeah, the one I'm looking at is like the CISA one. Oh, but I'm assuming, like you said, around now there's already like 10 of them.
Yeah, that's the
um,
problem, right? In the industry, there are multiple
yeah, I think this also has
frameworks,
one.
and which one do you adopt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good point, Brandon. Thank you for raising this, and I will definitely get more details from Srini.
Yeah.
Then maybe we can iterate through this paper rather than doing, carte blanche. We can say this paper only addresses maturity level 1 or 2, and then we can iterate and improve on that, right? That way we can make some quick, meaningful progress, Marius.
Absolutely. I think we can have a follow-up versions of this paper. If this is a successful paper, I think it can grow better. But on the other hand, we don't want to wait too long with releasing it. So as we go, I think we would improve on those subjects.
We have a hand raised. Frederick.
Cool. So you already covered the first part, which I was going to recommend taking a look at the CISA maturity model, which has 5 different pillars, and they talk about the different types of things that you want to see within zero trust within an environment. It's much more approachable than the NIST document as well. But the NIST one also calls out for at least 3 different types of zero trust architectures, because for them, it's like zero trust is not just one approach, but rather multiple possible approaches. The 3 that they call out, one of them is about increasing identity awareness within infrastructure, if I recall properly. The second one was about microsegmentation, and the third one was about lifting the identity and the authentication and authorization so that it's very close to the application and an elevated or rather in a much more context-aware path. I think that if the idea is to try to have a maturity model, I would recommend explicitly calling out which approach you're going to follow, and then base it off of one of those approaches, rather than saying just generally this is a zero trust approach, because that'll help people determine whether or not your document applies to their use case.
Yeah, good points. Thank you so much, Frederick. Yeah, we'll look into this.
I just had a quick question. So do you all plan to release a reference architecture that is based on some cloud native projects, or will this be more theoretical about the benefits of zero trust, why you should do it, or it'll be more combination of both? What's the plan?
Combination of both. So we want to have some actual examples from different open source projects and activities happening right now.
Okay, so you're going to actually look at projects, whatever, like Spiffy, Spire, OPA, and how they...
Definitely Spiffy, Inspire. Yes, we deep into it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
It looks like there's a little bit of gap in the policy side. So I guess this probably opportunity for the OPA to chime in, I guess, Ash.
So we also have Kyberno, right? So we can also look at Kyberno and OPA as well.
Yeah. So we have to create open source CNCF policy projects. So.
But like, is that the focus of this? Because I thought authentication is the focus of the of this reference, I mean, of the paper. Is that wrong?
No, it's zero trust. It's not just authentication.
Okay.
It's more than authentication, right?
In
Yeah, I
fact,
think
it's actually more authorization than authentication. So each operation needs to be authorized and continuously verified. And then we have this whole concept of the zero trust, whether we can trust these environments and applications and so on, and how to verify it, what's the way of attesting it, and so on. That's the focus.
Yeah, like if you take the microsegmentation approach that's listed, then there's no real authentication necessarily in that respect. But if you take the other approach where you're actually tying it into the application, then that calls very strongly for things like mutual TLS and for layer 7 context in the decisions made. So it could go either way, which is what I mentioned before about specifying the architecture specifically that you're discussing.
Yes, thank you.
yeah, so I think it'd be nice to get at least maybe someone from OPA, and then Arana. I don't know whether you've chatted with Jim as well, to see whether they have folks that want to chime in on the policy side.
They do actually.
Great.
I've been working with Jim on a number of things. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I did notice also you have one part on the runtime side. Maybe worth also reaching out to the tag runtime folks to see if there's any interest from anyone on their side.
Well, that's a very good point. Yes, because this is still marked as red, so we need more. Yeah.
Yeah, because I see that they're recently on their tech update, they've been covering a lot of security runtime projects like Enox and things like that as well. So there may be some folks currently in that space that may be interested in this as well.
Yeah, that's a good lead. We'll follow up with this.
Yeah. I think you can probably message Ricardo. I think Ricardo should be able to point you in the right direction there. I'll Slack you his
Thank you.
his Slack handle. Cool. Any other questions or comments on the white paper or just zero trust stuff in general? Cool. Thanks so much, Mariusz. That was really helpful. Looking forward to to reading more about it soon. Cool. One of the other things that I'd like to be able to do is also spend a little bit more time on the security assessment book. I think we're trying to gather some interest. This has been work that's been going around with a few individuals, but I think we wanna have a little bit more eyes on it and get a bit more perspective on the piece of work. So this is a security book, assessment book. Let me bring it up.
A link is in the chat.
I can't find my tab. Hold on. There we go. Thank you, Raga. So Raga, I know you've been following a bit closer with this work. Do you want to give maybe a quick, like 30 seconds, a minute, overview, or at least like your what you've been working on with Justin on this?
Sure. Sure. So the background for the security assessment books is twofold. One, there was an interest to get a lightweight threat model that goes hand in hand with the assessments that we've been doing with the projects in sandbox and incubation and things like that. And then the second fold was also to lower the barrier of entry for individuals to take up security assessments and assist in our efforts, and also from the application developer side or even the contributor side, how they could consume the assessment end result and interpret it. So with that in light, with some of the suggestions and multiple issues, after that we arrived at a consensus that an assessment book is something that could help stitch all of these parts together and provide a holistic view. So what we tried to do in this book is to address some of the security basic concepts and threat modeling concepts, and also tie it along with the tag security assessments, what exactly we do and how to interpret our work, what happens exactly in each step of the process, and things like that. So you can find all of this in a crisp consensus manner. It's about 30 pages long, and all of this is addressed in a very easy to digest manner, not very depth or very technical. It's easy to easy accessible for all sorts of backgrounds. And we are looking for more review in terms of what particular sections or any concepts you want us to add to this book, or if there is any projects that have already been through this process and would like to give us a feedback on how the experience was, how useful was it, is there any recommendations for us to focus, deprioritize, and things like that. And if you find any particular section that could be useful, please do reach out to us. Or if you want to contribute, please go ahead and let us know. We can discuss and work through that. That's all about the security assessments book. Any questions that I can answer?
Raga, I have a very important feedback on this document. We gotta make it publicly commentable. Yeah, maybe that's why we haven't been getting comments. You know?
Yeah, I think Justin wanted it in the Slack channel itself, so he might not have enabled it. So he is encouraging folks to discuss in the Slack channel and then put it in the document. So yeah, you can go ahead and request it. He'll probably grant that. And then let me just drop the Slack channel so you can join hands here. Just
I'm gonna ask him to just open it up for public comment. I think it's much lower barrier to entry for people to.
I agree. Yeah, I was not aware of this until a few days ago. It was not open for comments, but yeah, thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I pinged Justin in the lead chat, so I think he'll be able to get to it. Yeah. So based on my discussion with Justin, right now this is kind of like almost like another white paper, right? So and right now it doesn't really have a working group to live in. So the thought that we discussed is to have this if there isn't any agenda on the main meeting, we'll spend 15-20 minutes every meeting to just like go through bits of it, get some feedback, and this will be kind of where this current working group is hosted. So I think today we'll start off kind of at the top level. Let's stick to table of contents. Well, let's start with the forward and then table of contents and kind of discuss around that. And then I think in each individual session, following this one, we can probably just cover section by section, get more feedback, and hopefully see whether there are folks that want to contribute to this as well. Cool. So yeah, I think overview is this book kind of talks about security assessment, kind of highlighting this is kind of what we do as tag security. There is kind of this distinction that I think a lot of companies have with security assessment, both internally and externally, whereas it's not a full security audit, but it's more of an alignment of like evaluation of posture of a project. And so I think this will be useful. And I think this is part of what we talk about, what the difference between assessment and audits are. What should be the aspects of assessments that can be considered. Threat modeling is a big part of the assessment. And just in general, then we kind of conclude with like tech security assessments, and this is an example of how you can do assessments. So any thoughts on the document itself in terms of like what it's trying to do, and also just maybe we are missing some things, maybe you don't you disagree with some of the topics that I talked about here.
I'd like to add two things here. So one, I also discussed with Andrew, or rather mentioned to him, that it could also be possible to add a paragraph or two about the lightweight threat modeling work that has already been going on in the threat modeling section. So that could be something of interest. And second, another audience for this book is to also convert it into a training. So there is discussions going on with the Linux Foundation to try and convert this as much into a LF training. But then just context on two more avenues we are working on.
I think the biggest thing for me when I looked at this is I didn't get a strong sense of who's this for? Who's the target viewer for this? I think the thought I had when I was browsing it earlier this week, in addition to the training, Raga, would be to have like, I was thinking like a website like pbom.dev, or just as an example that like it's a little more interactive. So if a dev comes here and they're like, okay, I need to start doing this type of threat modeling, click through and sort of get a sense of what they need to do. I just try to figure out how to make it easily consumable. And again, I said this the other day, and I didn't mean to offend people, but like 45 pages, a developer's not going to read this. And I know it's only supposed to be segments, but I'd love to see that more clearly called out up front.
Yeah, I think there's a section on how to use the rest of the book in the introduction, but that still is something about like this section is for developers, this section is for security engineer, this section is for a program manager, let's call it. But then it articulates it to some extent. But like you mentioned, can you tell me the venue you were saying? dev.io?
Oh, I'll put it into the chat. pbom.dev. It's for
okay.
pipeline build materials.
Okay, sure. Thank you for that. I'll explore a little more.
So just as you got the screen up, I think it's random, right?
Yeah.
As you click on one of those guys on the left, like container security or something, you'll see different things get highlighted or shown.
Oh,
this is interesting.
Yeah, you can't click on stuff, so I think it's still a work in progress. It's vendor backed, but
gotcha.
Yeah, a few folks, I think, are starting to try and reach out to them to better understand what they mean by also open framework, because so far none of the community stuff actually leads anywhere.
There is finally now a GitHub behind this. We actually interviewed these guys on Application Security Weekly this week. So there's a GitHub. I'll see if I can find a link for it, but cool. They're just starting to open up.
What is combo squatting?
Is this something like a document which is mapped on the sections that's translated into this pbom.dev?
I don't want to talk for them because I know I'm going to get it wrong. But the idea, what they're trying to do is basically say, their thought process, and again, this is vendor backed, but their thought process is an SBOM just looks at the software itself, but the end results that you're releasing to a user has a lot more to do than just the SBOM. There's how it's built or where it's built or those type of things.
Very interesting.
So,
Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, I know that we're really interested in also talking to them, just because most of the SBOMs aren't just purely SBOMs anymore either. Like, whether it's SPDX and their build, was it build info or build profile?
Build profile.
Yeah. And
Sorry,
Cyclone DX's formulation and so on. I know that a lot of other groups are doing the existing SBOM things, are trying to broaden their scope to include things that I think PBOM might also be doing. So I think we're looking to see how we can collaborate.
I think it looks like there's also differences. Like, is PBOM itself a matrix, or is it a well-defined format? Because to me, it looks like a matrix of, here are different types of threats across different parts of the supply chain pipeline. And so things like SPDX, Cyclone DX, and similar can then be mapped into how to prevent some of these particular attacks if you structure them in a certain way. So I think that there's a lot of collaboration there that would be fantastic.
So I didn't mean to derail us. If there's interest, I can reach out to them and see if they want to come in and present maybe at one of our meetings.
That'd be great.
I'm interested to learn more. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But the point here was like, at least again, it's in my head this week, but the thought being, if a developer came to a site like this book powering some sort of site like that they could sort of go, okay, how do I do threat modeling, and like sort of be able to filter down to what they care about.
Yeah, we have that issue from like, I can't find the screen I'm sharing anymore. Oh, there we go. We have this we have this issue on the microsite that we want to do something like that. But
Oh yes.
we can never find web developers. It's a struggle of like security. It's an industry. Yeah, I think
that. Sorry to interrupt, Brandon. Please go on.
I just reminded of like, we have this thing also. Is it netlify.com or .net? There we go. We did have like this thing, but this is a little bit more targeted the white paper stuff. But I do see your point where maybe it's not so much a book, maybe it's something else.
The content's great. I'm just trying to figure out like how do we best, and I mean it comes back to like that call yesterday too with how do we best interact with the other both sandbox projects as well as developers in general.
Yeah, I think this can be really useful for not just this one project, but also the cloud native security white paper. That's a long reel as well. And with this as the pilot, we can translate it to all our efforts. So this is really a good thought. Thank you.
Have I been talking into nothing?
Quite possibly.
Okay,
I think so.
my bad. Oh, now my camera's busted as well. Wait, hold on. Okay, I'll restart. I was gonna say that this seems like this seems like a good place to, I think we had an issue to open for the contributor strategy guide for new projects. We could kind of link certain parts of this to that as well. But yeah, I do think, like you said, 45 pages is quite a lot, but each of these topics seem to be individual. We did chat a little bit about maybe putting some of these into like YouTube videos as well, which I know for me seems to be a pretty nice way to consume content, especially when I'm learning something. Or if we go really on hard on that, maybe we can start a Instagram, TikTok series of chat.
Do you think it would be possible to, with the, I've not read it, so I don't know if from a content perspective, but perhaps there could be a set of guides at the very start as to like, if you're a developer, this is like step one, you should look at this. Step two, you should focus on this. Step three, and so on. And the same with the other actors that we're trying to target. So that way, it doesn't become here's a wall of text, but instead it's like, how do I secure my source code repository, or how do I secure a certain aspect of a pipeline, and it gives them something that's digestible that they can go off and do as a step, rather than here's everything all at once.
I'm actually happy that you mentioned about that, because we had this discussion in the cognitive security white paper as well, where it's like, with the cognitive security map that I showed just now, we're like, people don't really know how to navigate stuff, and some of it isn't important to them. So we wanted to have these things we call like guided trails, or like guided tours. So say like, I want to learn about this zero trust, or I want to learn about vulnerabilities, and then it says like, look at this, give some context around the section, and go to the next thing. But that's kind of like stuff we talked about before. But it sounds like this could be a good, like, smaller version of that, that you're recommending. So yeah, so that's, once I get edit access, I'll put a comment here to say whether maybe we can explain some of these, like project maintainer. I think what you're saying, Frederick, is like having a sub bullet point is like, look at this section, have some context to explain like why you're looking at that section. Maybe. Is that kind of what you had in mind?
Yeah, just something that gives a little bit more guidance, like, because part of, if you look at from a learning perspective, there's no one who is going to be able to just consume everything, and part of it is knowing where to even start. So we could even front the things that could likely be the easiest and highest impact, or some combination of those two, up at the very top, and then as they progress down, and of course they can change the order they want themselves, but like getting someone to focus on how to improve their overall security stance, as a think of it as a learning path, I think would be valuable.
Awesome. That's great feedback. Cool. Yeah, once I get access to this, I'll put the comment in. Hopefully we get some revision on that. But yeah, this was good. We have a couple more minutes to the end of the call. Does anyone want to bring up anything, possibly new topics, potential topics of the future? Cool. If not, it's good to see everyone. And we'll see you in 2 weeks or next week.
So yeah.
Okay.